how has it been able to, I mean, because you had this period of years of, gosh, trying this, trying that, not working, and dealing with side effects. So what's been the impact for you personally? I mean, I know that it's like, okay, good. I'm glad this disease is under control right now. But from the day-to-day perspective, how has it been?
It's been hard in a lot of ways. I had to retire from teaching. I think that was one of the hardest things because I just felt like I can do this. I was working 50 to 60 hours a week as a teacher, and it took me so much longer to do anything because I was tired, I was weak, I was, experiencing different side effects throughout different uh, therapies. And so that was really difficult to make that decision to say, you know what, I can't work anymore. We're going to have to figure this out financially because you know what, cancer is so expensive. Um, I've just been thinking a lot about how many cancer patients, feel like they have to work because they have to keep their insurance. They have to have money to pay for treatments. It just amazes me to think what people have to do to to even get treated. And thank goodness I have good insurance, and we were able to get on disability, long-term disability through my school district. And so I was able to stop working. But that was probably one of the hardest decisions that we had to make because I loved teaching and it made me feel like I was normal, like I was doing something like every person does. And I felt like I was contributing to the family, for so long. Even when I was during my remission time, after my transplant, I did some work. It was like tutoring and substitute teaching, those kind of things. And I just didn't feel like I was, really contributing to the family. But once I got my own classroom, I was teaching, I just really felt like I helped, so it just felt like for so long I was pulling resources away from our family because of cancer. We are traveling so much. You just make different decisions financially than you would if you didn't have cancer. We spent money where we shouldn't have. We made a lot of bad decisions too. Um, but anyway, I just think those are the things that just have been the hardest for us, traveling through this journey.
Thank you, for talking about this. I mean, you talked about a couple of really important points. I mean, the financial aspect that he's like, you're like, hello, I have cancer. I shouldn't have to deal with this other stuff to worry about.
Right.
But that's just not how it works for a lot of people. And so,
Yep.
you know, um, are there any sort of tips or tricks, that you learned in terms of, like working with companies on getting subsidized costs, or with insurance, or with resources at the hospital?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to be in communication with your supervisors and administrators. I just for so long just tried to do it on my own, do it on my own, do it on my own, tried to act like, there was nothing going on with me. And then finally I just had to because I was taking time away from work. I was leaving you know, for treatment like 15 minutes early. I had to run to my car before the bell rang so that I could get out of the parking lot before the parents started moving, and people had to cover my class. There were times where I was doing 6 to 8 hour treatments, so I'd have to take the day off, find a substitute, write sub plans. All of these things that were so hard to do while I was doing treatment, but I just did them anyway. And I just would ask for the time off or ask for help finding um, coverage or whatever. But I didn't really share what I was really going through. And I think once I started doing that, my administrator, and not, it doesn't happen in every situation, but in my case, my administrator was really helpful and worked it out so I wouldn't necessarily have to take all my sick leave all the time when I was leaving, just 15 minutes early or whatever. She would work it out so that I could, come in earlier, do this or that so that I could cover that. She helped me get some accommodations through the district so that like I was allowed to sit while teaching because that was a rule in our district. You stand while you teach. And I just couldn't all the time. And so I got an accommodation where I could sit while I was teaching. I could have my oxygen in my classroom. I could have people help me take my kids to, like, I didn't have to walk across the building all the time on days if I wasn't feeling well. Those kind of things. Um, where if I hadn't been in communication, I wouldn't have been able to get that kind of stuff through her. And then when I was thinking about retiring and quitting, they were really helpful with, what's the best thing to do? Is it best to just quit? Is it best to retire? How do you apply for long-term disability? Is that an option for me? What are the steps? She put me with the right people. And so I think communication is the biggest thing. And also just to, and we've talked about it before, is just to ask and say, what are the things, what are the resources that I have to go through this? And most people are so kind and willing to help. And it's not going to happen. Like I'm on some myeloma pages on Facebook, and a lot of people talk about, not a lot, but a few people have talked about how it's been really difficult in their job situations, dealing with their administrators and things like that. And so, it's just a hard decision. Do you leave your workplace? Do you go and try to find something that's, at home, you could do at home, or less physical? There's just so many options, but I know that people need to still work and still have insurance. And but there are options out there. You just got to research, and you got to ask, and you got to follow up on things. And but it's hard too, because I feel like that's a full-time job. For a while it was a full-time job, just scheduling appointments and trying to find coverage for my position at work, and all of those things, and then calling all these places about, can I do long-term disability, all those things. And it's just like having a whole other job. So it's hard. It's really hard.
I mean, you're wearing like 500 hats
Mm-hmm.
when you really want to just wear the one of, let me get through this treatment, let me get better and healthier, right? I'm, really grateful that you described it and in such detail, because even if someone's not a teacher, if whatever, I mean, it's applicable to all different kinds of careers and jobs. You're bringing up the issue of support. And so I'd love to ask about caregivers, the importance of having them. I'll be showing pictures of your family as you talk, but, if you had some guidance to give to other people when dealing with, again, a disease that, you're expected to relapse and be refractory to X, Y, and Z, how important was it to have caregivers, and what's the kind of support that was most critical?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I have the best caregiver on the planet. My husband, he does everything for me. As far as, sometimes stairs are really difficult for me to navigate. And so because of some dizziness and some just weakness. And so he does all the laundry, he cleans the house, he does the cooking, he just takes care of me. And especially when I was teaching, he just had decided, she has to go through this and treatment and, work these 50 to 60 hours a week. So I'm going to do everything else plus my 40-hour-a-week job, to take care of her. And all she has to concentrate is getting well and, working at that time. And he's still, even though I'm not working, he still does pretty much everything for me. And so I'm really blessed with that. And I know that's not everybody else's experience all the time. But sometimes that has caused us to not accept help outside of our little two-person family now that our kids are gone. And so I think we could do better at that. There's people like at our church and things, at school, that wanted to help more, bring meals sometimes, or, we had some people help us when we were moving, give us extra help in cleaning the house that normally I would have done that I couldn't do, things like that, where it's so hard to accept someone's help. But like you said earlier, they really want to find some way to help you. And so giving them that opportunity is really a blessing to them. And so we've really realized that, giving other people the opportunity to help, because we don't have family here. It's just us. And well, now my mom is here, but she's 83. And so, so it's an interesting thing. She helps me. It's funny. The other day went to the grocery store, and she's holding on to my arm because I'm probably going to get dizzy. And yet she's this 83-year-old woman. All these people are probably thinking, oh, that's so nice that her daughter is helping her along the parking lot, but it's really her helping me. And so, but yeah, so that kind of support and just emotional support, and having, um, my daughter really struggles with it. She doesn't like to talk about it a lot. She likes to hear what is happening, as far as, tell her just the nuts and bolts. And then, but we don't really want to talk about it too much. She just was really affected when she was 5, with that whole thing, and then on and on and on for her whole life. And so we're still working on some of that with her. But I think we're at an okay place where I feel like, if I really needed to talk to her about something, I could. My son is all over it. He loves to talk about it. He'll ask me lots of questions, those kind of things. Um, but it's it's hard sometimes to just accept, help and support, but we try.
As long as we try, right? And just know that
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yep.
My last question, Beth, to you is, it's we're shifting now over to the research and medical side, but it's the topic of clinical trials and um, the importance of them. Of course, all these new combinations that are coming out, including the one you're on now with Selenex, are results of clinical trials, and they're different kinds. But you know, these sorts of studies obviously need people to be a part of them. And so, what's your message about the importance of clinical trials, especially with a disease like multiple myeloma? And, would you consider one ever? And, just, yeah, I want to know the human impact of this term that we hear get tossed around a lot.
I don't know a ton about it, as far as, because I've never done one, but when I'm on those pages with all those myeloma people on Facebook, they talk about it a lot, and they talk about, please do the clinical trials if you can. And I think it's really important. I would love to be able to do them if when we come to that place where I really don't have a lot more options. But I did hear from someone, that being non-secretory could make it difficult. That would might exclude me from a lot of different, clinical trials. So we would really have to look into it and see what, the exclusions are, and see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm all for it. And I think, if patients can do it, they should do it. And I know that it can be expensive. Like for me, it would be really expensive because, we live in a small town in Wyoming, and we'd have to travel somewhere to do it most likely. And so, that's a real, problem for us. As far as, I mean, right now we could probably do it better than we could, 10 years ago. But, there's a lot of considerations like that patients have to walk through. And, um, a lot of tests, there's a lot of testing, there's a lot of, that kind of thing. And so it's not an easy decision to make, but I think that it's so important if we can get these things out on the market for patients, for the wide audience that needs it.
Seeking for their own lists like the one that you have. Any last thing you want to share, Beth, to people? I know that you've talked about you've had this for almost half your life, and you've described it as part of who you are and your story, and you wear that, proudly. It's like the silver lining that you've been able to find purpose in helping other people, which I find so beautiful.
It's been just a crazy year. I've just had just all these opportunities to share my story have come up, and, I'm just so grateful for that, because I think sharing your story just really, well, for me at least, it helps me to process, through what I've been through. It helps me remember, because I think it's important to remember what we've been through, and then it helps you make decisions in the future, and it just helps you to give yourself some grace. I don't give myself grace very often, as far as, when I feel bad or tired or anything, I think, oh, I gotta feel better. I gotta, get up and do stuff. I gotta, push through this. But then if I tell my story and I think, you know what, you've been through a lot. This is okay to feel this way this day. Um, and I think, we just are hard on ourselves, and we don't let ourselves be sick. And especially myeloma patients, because we don't look sick. We don't, often, you know, show that we're sick. I look like I'm not sick, um, and so it's really hard to balance that with I am sick, and I need to be able to take care of myself, and I need to, not push it too much, and I gotta, um, give myself some grace. I think that's one of the biggest things. And just to be in good communication with your doctors. And like we talked before, just be an advocate for yourself and, um, not be a pushy, annoying patient, but sometimes you have to be, but, just do what you have to do and be in communication and conversation about it and ask a lot of questions and do research, but be careful, where you're doing your research. Make sure that you're, looking in good places that have real information. So I think a lot of people, I think we've had this is another thing that I think it's been one of our biggest things we've dealt with is there's so many people that want to help and have good intentions. And so, I've been told I need to take this supplement or read this book or do this thing. Like we were told to do coffee enemas. We were told to, um, take curcumin, which is, proven actually to help some people with myeloma. But we were told to not talk. We had someone tell us, don't talk about it. Don't put anything negative out into the universe and your cancer will be healed. Those kind of things. We've had difficult situations like that. And I think that's a hard thing to wade through, because you want these miracle cures to work. And people are always saying they're going to work, and often they don't work. And so you have to wade through that, and you have to decide how, are you going to change your diet? Are you going to take supplements, whatever it is? And it may help you, it may not help you. And so that's a difficult thing that we've had to wade through. We've had some difficult relationship issues with that, where people are upset because we won't do what they want us to do. And, oh, you're going to be healed if you do this. And we've chosen to do the traditional medicine type thing mostly. I do some things natural, like for side effects and things like that. But as far as treatment for the myeloma, we're doing, all traditional medicine. But, other people have other choices. But it's a big thing that people have to wade through. And I think it's tiring, and I think it's hard.
For sharing that, because I think this is a shared experience across all kinds of cancers.
Mhm.
People with very good intentions, but
Yes.
it's like, look, I'm going to draw my boundaries. I can't,
Yep.
I don't want to have all of this in my space. Thank you and no thank you.
Right.
Right? It's
Exactly.
tough to draw those boundaries though, but
Yes, it is.
but Beth, what an incredible story you've shared with us today. And I know we could probably talk for like 10 more hours, truly, because you have so much that not only you could share, but that you want to. I just want to thank you for joining us today. And, I hope to continue this conversation with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
So for everyone who wants to read and watch Beth's story, make sure to head to thepatientstory.com where we give human answers to your cancer questions.